Thank you. You may be seated. Let me just make a short record before we call our next witness. I would like to indicate to counsel that I was able to obtain transcripts of the first 3 days of the trial. And to that, I would like to thank the Branch 7 judicial assistant, as well as the Branch 7 clerk. Also, I want to thank the Branch 7 court reporter, as well as the Branch 1 court reporter. When I was assigned to the case late Thursday, they immediately went to work, and by late Friday afternoon, they had provided me with rough drafts of the transcripts, and the court staff had also provided me with copies of various motions and rulings that had taken place in the case prior to my appointment. So I wish to thank the staff on a great team effort in getting me up to speed in the case. With that said, then, State may call the next witness.
Thank you. The State calls Special Agent Joe Welch.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the matter now before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Put this on, take your mask off.
Would you pull your chair up to the microphone? And you almost have to put that visor over the microphone.
Okay.
Would you state and then spell your name?
Joseph Welch, W-E-L-S-C-H.
Thank you. Can you state for the record how you're currently employed?
Yes, I'm employed as a special agent with the Wisconsin Department of Justice, Division of Criminal Investigation.
And we've heard a little bit about the Department of Criminal Investigation. Is that also called DCI?
Correct.
And what does DCI do?
Investigate different crimes. I'm assigned to major crimes, which is generally homicides, officer-involved shootings, and missing persons.
And what is DCI's jurisdiction?
Statewide jurisdiction throughout the state of Wisconsin.
Are there individual and localized field offices?
Yes, there are.
And which field office are you assigned to?
I'm assigned to the Eau Claire field office.
And is there also a field office located in Appleton?
Yes, there is.
And is it common in the course of assisting with investigations that sometimes you help an Appleton field office and vice versa?
Yes, very common.
And in addition to that, is it common for DCI agents to assist local law enforcement?
Yes.
And what are some instances in which that occurs?
If the local agency there is not of size as far as a small agency where they need additional assistance with resources, they'll contact DCI. There are larger cases, just overall, if it's a large criminal investigation where they need assistance, they'll contact DCI for assistance.
How long have you been specifically employed with DCI?
I've been employed with DCI for about 14 and a half years.
Do you have prior law enforcement experience?
Yes, I do.
Could you outline that for us?
Yes, I was employed by the Sauk County Sheriff's Office for 16 years. And my last years working for the Sauk County Sheriff's Office, I was a detective supervisor for the last 3 years.
So in total, about 30 years of law enforcement experience?
Just over 30 years, yes.
Correct. And 13 of those years with Sauk County were you a patrol deputy?
Correct. I actually started in the jail, working in the jail for approximately 6 months, and worked as a patrol deputy for approximately 2 years. And since 1994, I was assigned to criminal investigations.
Do you have any special assignment currently with DCI?
Yes, working major crimes.
Okay. And those are, I think you outlined earlier, homicides, cases like that?
That's correct.
Do you also have any other duties with DCI?
Yes, I also work as unmanned aerial vehicle operator and a pilot. Working, actually, another name for it is using a drone operator.
And I guess just for the record, what is an unmanned aerial vehicle?
It's exactly what it is. It's an unmanned vehicle that's used by a remote control, and then there's no one occupying that vehicle. It's just a small unit that takes photos and video of scenes or just areas that are being searched.
Are you trained to utilize the unmanned aerial vehicles?
Yes, I am.
Could you outline that for us?
I'm a Part 107, which is a FAA license to operate the unmanned aerial vehicle, and have had training, actually training both formal and non-formal training, informal training to operate that unit.
And how long have you been a UAV operator?
Approximately 5 years.
And is the, I guess, proper term an operator, or is it pilot?
Proper term would probably be pilot.
Okay. So when you're piloting a UAV, I guess, what is your role or responsibility in operating that device?
My responsibility is the safety of both taking off and landing, along with the operation of the unit. And then there's a screen that you actually look at that's attached to the remote control, which you can see what the actual UAV is seeing. So you can actually see from the air, you can see both, you're just seeing how high the unit is, and then what you're actually looking at as far as a video. So that is my assignment, is to basically run that unit and to be able to operate.
In what sort of situations are you asked to assist with the operation of a unmanned aerial vehicle?
There have been situations of searches of a scene, also missing persons. There are several different areas, but they're generally the large two that we'll use it for in our application.
And when the unmanned aerial vehicle is collecting those photos and videos that you're able to see, does it also record those images as well?
Yes, it does. It does both still images and video images. You can choose between the two.
Okay. And the purpose of that is so you can later review what is seen on the drone?
Yes, correct.
And when you're physically operating the drone, what sort of height or distances is it up in the air?
So it is below 400 feet above ground level. So it's at 400 feet and below is where it operates, or where we're able to operate by law.
Okay. I'll direct your attention then to May 10th of 2019. Do you recall being requested to assist with a search at 518 Coonish Road on that date?
Yes, I believe it was 5118 Coonish Road.
Yep.
And yes, I was.
And where was that located?
That's located outside of Green Bay. I'm not sure exactly the city.
In 2019, were you also based out of Eau Claire?
Yes, I was.
Okay. But you're aware it was outside of Green Bay?
Yes, correct.
And do you recall how you came to be involved in this case?
Yes, I was contacted by Special Agent Jay Yurgis from our Appleton office requesting assistance with a search for a body.
Okay. And I guess the purpose of your involvement was to conduct a drone search of the area?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And ultimately, did you do so?
Yes, I did.
And when you're operating a drone, do you have anyone assisting you with the operation of that device?
Yes, I do.
And who is that?
That was Spencer Gustafson from our Appleton office. He is a civilian analyst that assisted.
Okay. And what is, I guess, his role?
His role is just as an observer, so he is just watching the unmanned aerial vehicle to make sure that there are no airplanes, there are any other obstructions that would possibly be a problem with the UAV.
So I guess to clarify, you're the pilot, but you're sort of watching what the drone is seeing. You have assistance with respect to watching the actual drone itself.
That is correct.
Okay. And do you recall, I guess, when this search occurred in terms of during the day?
And it was early afternoon, I believe, is when it occurred.
Okay. And when you're conducting these drone searches, were you aware that there was I guess, a search warrant that authorized law enforcement to do that?
Yes.
Okay. And that's common when you conduct drones?
Yes, it is.
Ultimately, when you conducted those drone searches, do you remember how long you were operating the drone for on that day?
Approximately 2 hours.
Okay. So quite a length of time?
It wasn't a straight 2 hours. There was times because of the battery life, you have to actually land the drone, change batteries several times. So it would have been both takeoff and landings in that 2 hour span.
Okay. And when you were completed with your search of the area, did you ultimately take the images and recordings that were collected from your drone and submit them into evidence?
Yes, I did.
And prior to testifying, did you also have the chance to review those images as well?
Yes, I did.
Agent, I'm showing you it's been marked as exhibits 62 through 66. I'll ask that you review those and ask if you recognize those exhibits.
Yes, I do.
And what do those exhibits appear to be?
These are the mappings of the drone, or using the UAV plot as we search the area.
And I don't think I asked about that. So in addition to the images and video that the drone is able to collect, is there also a function that allows the drone to record its movement, essentially?
Yes, there is. It records the movement from the time it takes off until the time it lands. And during that time, on each of these area, it shows whether there's a photo taken or whether there's a video taken of that particular area. So each area is marked by showing that there was a photo taken.
Okay. And exhibits 62 through 66 are maps consistent with the flight path of the drone you operated on May 10th, 2019?
Yes, it is.
I'd move exhibits 62 through 66, Your Honor.
No objection, Your Honor.
62 through 66 are admitted.
And then permission to publish, Your Honor.
Objection?
No objection, Your
You
Honor.
may publish.
And then can the jury all see this?
Jury's requesting that you make the picture bigger.
Oops. Okay. Agent, we're looking at Exhibit 62, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And I guess what area would this depict in relation to the house that you were, I guess, based at?
So this would have been an area to the east of the house off of Coonish Road.
Okay. And again, we see a gray, I guess a gray kind of path or line on the center of the image. Would that be the flight path that you were describing earlier?
Yes, that's correct. The parking lot area where the red triangle is, that would be the location where we took off and landed. And then from there, the flight path would have been correct through the right side of the photo or toward the east of where we had taken off.
Okay. Then there appear to be several boxes on the photograph as well. Do those, would those indicate areas where a photograph or video was taken?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And that can all be logged by the drone itself?
Yes, correct.
And you mentioned this is just off, or just east of Coonish Road. Is the road on the bottom of the screen, I guess running left to right, would that be Coonish Road?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And this is just east of the residence that you were asked to search?
Correct.
And then we'll look at Exhibit 63, if you could pull that up. Okay, and again, with respect to Exhibit 63, sort of the same questions. Does this outline the path in relation to the house that you were asked to search?
Yes, it does.
And the green, there's a green marker on that. Is that 518 Coonish Road?
Correct. That would have been the 5118 Coonish Road.
Okay. And so the area here that you're searching is essentially north of that residence?
Yes.
Okay. And then Exhibit 64. Again, what area is this documenting?
Again, the red triangle notes where we had taken off, and the H, the green H above there is the actual area that we had taken off and landed, and it was searched directly to the south of Coonish Road from that residence.
Okay. And again, the green marker would indicate the residence that you started the flight from?
Correct.
And then Exhibit 65. Which area is this documenting that was searched?
This area would be to the west of the residence, so Coonish Road runs east and west below, again, as depicted in the other exhibit. And we searched from a parking lot at a business to the west of the residence on Coonish Road, and then searched an area to the east in that open field and the wooded area.
And again, there appears to be a road running left to right towards the bottom of that photograph. Does that appear to be consistent with Coonish Road?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And then with respect to Exhibit 66, what does this depict?
This depicts the area to the east of the residence at 5118 Coonish Road, and the road running to the east and west on the bottom part of the picture is Coonish Road, and searching directly to the east of that parking lot.
Okay. So would it be fair to say that on May 10th, 2019, you're looking east, west, south, and north of 5118 Coonish Road?
Yes.
Okay. The boxes we indicated, or I guess you indicated, were collecting photographs and video of the location on May 10th, 2019?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm also going to show you what's been marked as exhibits 67 through 78. Have you review those, and I'll ask if you recognize those exhibits.
Yes, I do recognize them.
And what do those exhibits appear to be?
They are some of the photos that I had taken from the UAV that day.
Okay. And those were images collected from the drone you were operating?
Yes, correct.
And those are appeared consistent with the area around 5118 Coonish Road on May 10th, 2019?
Yes, they are.
Okay. I'd move 67 through 78, Your Honor.
No objection, Your Honor.
67 through 78 are admitted.
And then permission to publish.
No objection, Your Honor.
Permission granted.
Okay. Agent, we're looking at exhibit 67, does that appear correct?
That's correct, yes.
And what does exhibit 67 depict?
That is a trail that runs east and west directly to the north of the residence at 5118 Coonish Road.
And that's, I guess, would that be focusing our attention west?
Yes, that is correct, to the west.
Okay.
You're looking to the west.
And your approximate location at this point, the drone is not at 5118 Coonish Road at this point?
Correct, we were at the park that was to the east of the residence.
Then we'll look at the next exhibit, that is 68. And what does this depict?
This is a field, and I'm not sure the exact location of that field.
So even though the drone is, I think you said several hundred feet in the air, are you still able to, I guess, get a close-up image of the ground from that location?
Yes.
Okay. And how does that assist you in your investigative efforts?
As compared to like an airplane flies generally above 500 feet above ground level, where a drone or a UAV can fly 400 feet and below. You're able to see the ground easier in most times than a airplane can.
Okay. So despite, I guess, the device being somewhat up in the air, you're still able to utilize that drone to look at areas closer to the ground?
Yes.
Okay. And then, sir, with respect to Exhibit 69, does this appear to depict the same trail we referenced earlier?
Yes, it does.
And just for the record, that's running left to right across the photograph as we're looking at it?
Yes.
Okay. And does this appear to be the, I guess, the backfield area of 5118 Coonish Road?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It'd be directly to the north of the house.
And the viewpoint in which the drone's looking at this point is also north?
Correct.
Okay, then with respect to Exhibit 70, what does this depict?
The buildings that are the closest to the camera are is the 5118 Coonish Road. So we'd be looking to the south the road that runs east and west, or left and right across the middle of the photo is Coonish Road. And then the road that is running north and south to the left, I'm not sure what the name of that road is, but we're looking to the south.
In addition to the drone you were operating on that date, you also physically were present at 5118 Coonish Road?
Yes, I was.
And the areas we're looking at that, for instance, an exhibit, the exhibit we're looking at here, there's a large brown area. Did that appear to be a relatively flat area?
Yes, it was.
And I guess, is that also true for the areas of green that we're looking at in this photograph?
Yes, it was flat with no or very little foliage over top at all. You could see the ground.
And then the next exhibit, and this is exhibit 71, is that correct?
71, correct.
Okay. This is just further west of the image we were just looking at?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And again, we can see the same trail sort of in the background of this photograph?
Yes.
With respect to the tree line area that we can see, do you recall at this time of year, was there a significant amount of coverage in those trees?
There wasn't a significant amount of coverage. In fact, there were no leaves on the trees at this time of year.
So as you sort of piloted the drone over those wooded areas, were you able to see down through that coverage to some extent?
As to some extent, could see down to the ground, but there is still some coverage. But for the most part, without the leaves on the trees, it was able to see the ground.
Okay. So then, with respect to Exhibit 72, what does this depict?
That is an overview of 5118 Coonish Road.
And what direction is the drone facing in this image?
Facing to toward the southeast.
Okay. And the major road that sort of runs top left to bottom right of the image, is that Coonish Road?
Yes, it is.
And Exhibit 73, does that sort of appear to depict the same angle?
Yes, it does.
Then with respect to Exhibit 74, what does this depict?
I'm not sure which direction we're facing here. That is Coonish Road directly below, but I'm not sure exactly the location.
The road running north to south, or I guess top to bottom in this photograph, that's Coonish Road?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Then if you could flip to Exhibit 77. What does this depict?
That is the 5118 Coonish Road address, an overview of that address. It is, the camera is facing toward the north, and the road where the vehicle is on, which is running east and west, is Coonish Road.
Okay. So then, with respect to, I guess, all of your observations of this area, 5118 Coonish Road on May 10th, did you note anything that needed to be called attention to other law enforcement officers?
No, I did not.
And what sort of things were you looking for generally in this search?
Looking for a body, potentially any clothing or anything that would stand out by flying the drone. and we did not find anything like that. Many times even debris, like garbage or piles of garbage you can see from the air, we did not see anything like that. Nothing that needed to be investigated further.
And then subsequently, all of the photographs, videos, the flight map we looked at earlier, copies of that were turned over to Special Agent Jurgis?
Yes, they were.
No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
You may cross.
Thank you. Investigator, you took these images in May of 2019. That's 6 years after she went missing, true?
I'm not sure the date she went missing.
So when you were called out there, you weren't sure that weren't told when Victoria Prokopovitch went missing?
I don't recall right now when she went missing. At that time, we were briefed.
Okay. So if she went missing in April 2013, May 10th of 2019, that's 6 years later.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. When you were doing all these searches, did you only search the area around the Kunish Road address?
Yes.
Did you go search anything? Strike that. The first set of pictures you were showed, which was 62 through 66. Those were kind of the mapping of the area that you covered. How far did the drone go as far as distance from the 5118 Kunish Road address in each direction?
I don't have an exact distance of how far it was from the Kunish Road address.
Do you think it was less than 5 miles?
Yes.
Okay. So maybe 2.5 mile radius?
I would say that would be fair to say yes.
Okay. And when you did all these observations, I think the state asked you, you didn't find anything of evidentiary value with regards to a body or debris or anything of that nature?
That's correct.
Okay. Did the search rule out the idea that she could have gotten a ride somewhere?
No, it did not.
Okay. And so your search was limited to that area. They didn't have you search anything north, south, east, or west of that Kunish Road area other than that immediate 2 to 5 mile radius?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So you couldn't rule out the fact that she potentially could have got a ride somewhere and drove off?
Objection calls for speculation.
I don't think it calls for speculation, Your Honor. I'm asking whether or not it ruled it out. I'm just asking for his opinion. It's not necessarily a speculation issue.
I'll overrule it.
Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Your search did not rule out the fact that she could have gotten a car and drove outside of that search area, true?
That is correct, yes.
Did the search indicate, show any evidence of foul play?
No.
So it really didn't derive one way or another, correct? It wasn't, you couldn't rule out suicide, you couldn't rule out foul play, you couldn't rule out anything. It was just a search and you didn't find anything.
That's correct, yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect?
Yes, so Special Agent, your role in this case was essentially to operate the drone in this case?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so you're not familiar with other aspects of the investigation?
No, I'm not, other than just being generally briefed about the missing person.
And that would have been something that was handled by Special Agent Jurgis and the other case agents?
Yes, that's correct.
So you have no personal knowledge as to other searches that were conducted in the area?
No, I don't.
You have no personal knowledge of statements anyone made in the case?
No, I don't.
And you have no, I guess, really other knowledge of the case in general, as opposed to, or I guess, apart from just, conducting the drone search?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And the purpose of turning the evidence over to Special Agent Jurgis subsequent to your drone search is what?
That's a normal procedure. We would turn the evidence over to the case agent for custody of the evidence that we obtained.
Okay. And then does the case agent then typically I guess, take all that information and sort out subsequent investigative steps?
That is correct, yes.
And that's consistent with how you operate cases as well when you're the case agent?
Yes, I am, correct.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Angelo?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you, you're excused. You may call your next witness. Jurors, you can stand up and stretch.
State calls Timothy Newtals.
And would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the matter now before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. Would you then state and then kindly spell your name, please?
Timothy Newtals, Newtols.
Examine your witness.
Thank you. Mr. Newtals, are you presently employed?
I am not.
And I guess, are you retired?
I'm retired, yes.
Okay. And what was your employment prior to your retirement?
I was a Brown County Sheriff's Deputy Canine Handler.
Okay. And how long did you work in law enforcement?
25 years.
And when did you retire?
In 2015.
Was the entirety of that 25 years as a canine officer?
No, just shy of 18 years of it was.
Okay. And what are some of your, or I guess, where are some of your duties as a canine officer?
Mostly, my dogs were dual-purpose dogs, so they did patrol, tracking, building searches, criminal apprehension, and then they had a detection specialty. The first dog was a narcotics dog, and the last two were explosive detection dogs.
And in April of 2013, do you recall which canine partner you had at that time?
That would have been Enzo.
Okay. And Enzo was a, I guess as you called it, a dual-purpose canine?
Correct.
And you mentioned tracking purposes. Would that be tracking of a live scent of a person?
Yes.
Okay. So that was one of Enzo's, I guess, training points is the detection of a live scent?
Yes.
Okay. And did you and Enzo undergo training with respect to that purpose?
Yes.
And could you outline that if you recall?
Well, the training, my very first dog, I went to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and did a 6-week canine handler course, basically training me how to train the dog. And then the next 2 dogs, which would have been Bugsy and then eventually Enzo, I had shipped here from Europe and I trained them myself. But before they became deployable on the road, we had to go through a certification process, which we did.
Okay. And then directing your attention to April 27th of 2013. Do you recall if you and Enzo were dispatched to a residence in the township of Pittsfield on that day?
Yes.
And do you remember the address that you were dispatched to?
I don't recall. I have my notes if I can use them.
Okay. That's okay. Do you recall if it was on Coonish Road?
Yes, it was on Coons Road.
And that was, would that be 5118 Coonish Road?
That sounds right.
Okay. Do you remember the time that you were dispatched to that residence?
I believe it was around 6 a.m.
Okay. So in the early morning hours?
Yes.
End of April in Wisconsin, was it still daylight at that point?
Yes.
Okay. So you could still see around the area.
Correct.
Were any officers dispatched with you?
Yes. Canine handler for Brown County, Zach Roush, and then Merlin Cornelius, which he worked for Oneida Tribal at the time, canine handler.
Oh, so both were canine handlers that were responded to assist you?
Yes.
And what was the purpose that you were requested at the Coonish Road residence?
They wanted us to do a search of the area around the house with the canines.
Were you informed at that point that there was a search for a missing person?
Yes.
When you arrived, did you attempt to make contact with the homeowner of the residence?
I did. I knocked on the door. I don't recall how long, but I knocked on the door with no response.
Okay. So you didn't have any contact with the homeowner on that date?
No.
Okay. Did you ultimately use Enzo to search the area?
Yes.
Do you recall the areas in which you searched?
Not without looking at my notes. I mean, we searched several areas around the house to the north, south, west, and east, pretty much every direction around the house, but we each took a different area to search.
Okay. Around the time that you responded in late April of 2013, did you prepare a report with respect to your search efforts on that date?
I did, yes.
And this was almost 8 years ago at this point. Would reviewing that report assist your recollection in testifying today?
Yes.
Okay. Deputy, I'll show you what's been marked as Exhibit 80 and ask if you recognize that exhibit.
Yes, this is the report that I wrote after the deployment that day.
Okay. So then I'll ask that you review that report, and then I'll ask if you recall the areas in which you were requested or ultimately did search around the residence.
It looks like I deployed Enzo to the creek bottom, 300 yards to the west of the residence. And then also the Mountain Bay Trail east of Brookside Road was another area I searched. And then some deer stands that were south of Coonish Road in a woodlot about 600 yards off the road.
Okay. And were there also some outbuildings on that property that were searched?
Yes.
Okay. Were those, I guess, opened or locked at the time you arrived?
When we arrived, they were locked.
Okay. And how did they become open to search?
After we did our initial search, we went back to the residence, and there was a gentleman there that stated he was the landlord, and he unlocked the buildings for us, and then we searched those buildings.
So they were locked originally, and then the landlord came and opened it up for you to search?
Correct.
And ultimately, yourself and the other officers did search those areas?
Yes.
And then with respect to the creek that you mentioned searching, you said that was 300 yards to the west of the residence?
Yes,
Okay. And then you searched up to the Mountain Bay Trail?
yes.
And do you recall how far down the Mountain Bay Trail you would have gone?
We went, I believe it was to County Highway C. And we searched both sides, north and south side of that trail.
And then you also mentioned you searched some deer stands in the area. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. And where were those located?
south of Coonish Road, the edge of a woodlot about 600 yards off the road.
In any of the areas that you were responsible for searching on April 27th, 2013, did you locate the missing person you were tasked to attempt to locate?
I did not.
Okay. And is that the extent of the search efforts you made on that day?
Yes.
Do you recall how long you were at the residence for?
I do not. I remember being pretty tired when I got home, so I'm thinking I had worked the whole night before and went there at the end of my shift, so I'm thinking it was several hours.
Okay. So 9, 10 o'clock sometime in there?
Yeah, would be a good estimate.
Okay. Thank you, sir. No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Newtalls, when you went out to the residence on 427, you had Enzo. Was this a dog that you trained yourself?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And as far as your training goes, how long can a person be missing before the scent goes away for your dog not to recognize that person's scent anymore? Do you know it's like hours, how many hours they have?
It's really hard to tell. It depends on environment and weather conditions and things like that.
Is there a training about how long, like different intervals for a dog searching for certain scents? Like, is it like after 3 hours it searches for one type of scent and then different, or how exactly does it work?
I don't know about the different training about switching from scent to scent. The patrol dogs that I trained are trained to find live human scent.
And so when you went looking for this live human scent in this particular day, were you given any item of Victoria's for your dog to search for or to have her scent?
No, sir.
Okay. So you guys just went out there and just started looking just for a human scent, just in general?
Yes, sir. That's the way all of our patrol dogs are trained.
Okay.
No specific scent, just human scent.
Did you, when you were doing your search, did you or anybody else do a search of the driveway area out to Coonish Road?
I don't recall, and I don't see that in this report.
Okay. And as far as the radius around the house that you searched, do you know approximately how far out you guys searched in a radius?
No, I do not. Just whatever I have in my report here, I don't know. I mean, at one point it looks like we were 800 yards from the residence.
Would you say that, did you go any further than about a mile of radius out?
No, I wouldn't think so.
Just typically because if you're walking with the dog and you're doing all the searching, it takes a while to go to all different areas, correct? So anything further than that might get a little bit more difficult or more time consuming?
Correct.
Okay. Did the dog that you're with, Enzo, did he indicate any sort of signs of that there was any presence around that house area?
No, sir.
People were still living there though, so how would Enzo know the difference between somebody who was still residing there and somebody who went missing, or is it just looking just for a general scent?
We did not search on the property at the house. We deployed across and away from where there would have been people milling about. So we didn't, I mean, when we did the search of the outbuildings, we did not use the dogs.
Okay. Did you, with your particular dog, walk up or down Coonish Road at all?
I don't recall.
And based on your limited area search, you couldn't tell whether or not if Ms. Prokopovitz got a ride from somebody, you couldn't tell if she left the area, correct? Based on your search?
No,
Okay. And you didn't find anything of foul play in the area that would raise your suspicion that something happened to her on the property, correct?
no, I did not.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Further direct?
In addition to your canine, I guess using your canine to search for a scent, are you also yourself keeping an eye out looking for anything that would help in your search efforts?
Yes, we were looking for if we could see any fresh footprints or, twigs cracked where someone may have walked off into the brush or anything like that.
Okay. And you were asked as well about whether or not you saw any indicia of foul play in the areas you searched. You did not search the residence itself, right?
No, we did not.
For instance, you didn't search inside the house?
No,
And you didn't search in the driveway area?
no,
You didn't search the area immediately around the residence?
no, just the outbuildings.
So those are areas you didn't search?
No, we did not search.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
None, Your Honor.
Thank you, excused. We'll call our next witness.
At this time, the state would call Heidi Faves to the stand.
Here's your welcome, staff, Mr. Adams. Raise your hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give, and that are now before the court, shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. Now, you have to get close to the microphone and almost have, there you go, the visor over the microphone. Would you state and then please spell your name?
Heidi Faves, T-H-A-V-E-S. Heidi is H-E-I-D-I.
Ms. Faves, how are you employed?
I'm a police officer and a canine handler with the City of Shawano Police Department.
Am I saying your name right?
Heidi, yep. Faves?
Faves.
Yes.
I'm sorry, so you're presently employed with the Shawano Police Department?
Yes.
And how long have you been employed with the Shawano PD?
Shawano Police Department, 16 years.
Okay. And had you been employed with another law enforcement agency previous to that?
Yes, I was a state trooper from 1994 to 2005.
When you were a state trooper, was that in the state of Wisconsin?
Yes.
How many years were you a state trooper?
Approximately 11.
Okay. And previous to being a state trooper, were you employed with any other law enforcement agency?
No.
So in totality, you've been a law enforcement officer for approximately 27 years?
Yes.
Okay. With regard to your role as a law enforcement officer, do you have training and experience with respect to investigating criminal instances of conduct?
Yes.
And on occasion, has that included investigations involving alleged homicides?
Yes.
Do you also have training and experience with respect to taking items of evidence into custody and maintaining a chain of custody?
Yes.
And taking statements from alleged suspects, victims, and witnesses?
Yes.
In the course of your duties as a law enforcement officer, do you also have certification as a canine handler?
Yes.
All right, and when did that occur?
My patrol canine was 2013, and then I had received a different canine in 2014. He's a dual-purpose canine.
Okay. So your first canine in 2013, who is that?
That was canine Aldo.
And are you saying Aldo, A-L-D-O?
Yes.
Okay. And your dual-purpose canine in 2014, who is that?
Carrick, C-A-R-Y-K.
Okay. And were you the handler for a canine Makita?
Yes.
Okay. Is that a third canine?
That is a different canine that would be trained in human remains detection.
Okay. So let's talk about that. When you're handling or involved with working with a canine, there are different purposes for certain canines?
Yes.
All right, so back in 2013, let's strike that. In 2014, March of 2014, do you recall what canine you were working with?
Yes, it would be canine Makita.
All right. Now, when you indicate that you were a canine handler, what type of training do you have to go through with respect to becoming a canine handler?
In regards to canine Makita, we did some online testing. Each, I guess, certification might be different depending upon what certification or who's hosting the certification. For this particular one, I needed to do some online tests. I went to some workshops, some seminars, and then being able to show through a certification that she is proficient in locating human remains.
So when you were talking about one of the dogs was dual purpose, Makita is a single purpose and it's for human remains?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I thought officers do pretty intensive training with their canine through a certification course, like on site. Did you do something like that with Makita?
Yes, in 2013, we went to St. Louis, Missouri, and we obtained our certification through the National Search Dog Alliance.
So when you go and you do that type of on-site training, how long did that last?
That was almost all-day training. They set up different scenarios. One was maybe there were human remains in a car. You didn't know which car had the human remains in, so you worked your dog around that. Also, there was a roadside sniff. I don't remember how far it was, where two, what we call aids or the source of human remains would have been placed on a roadside. So we had to call where that alert was. And again, these are all hides that we don't know. They were set up for certification purposes. So they were all what we call blind hides. So we weren't given a clue where they might be. You had to read your dog. Another one was a house sniff. And then the final one, I believe, was maybe 2 acres. There might have been 3 or 4 sources put out, and you had to, I guess, call the alert, per se. You were only allowed 1 miss. If you missed more than 1 item in all of those different searches, you were basically disqualified, and you were able to take the test after, I believe it was another year.
So with respect to that certification, then, it sounds like these different hides that are done as part of the testing, that essentially they are tests to see if your dog is able to positively identify the remains?
Yes.
Now, at the time that you are handling the dog, and so, again, I'm talking about Makita. So the jury knows, when you are a handler for a canine, does that dog actually live with you?
This one does. It was my private dog, my personal dog.
Okay. And one of the things with respect to why the dog would be residing with you or staying with you, is it for you to maintain and get a close relationship with that canine so that they listen to you and your commands?
Yes, and also to be able to train with that dog.
Okay. And with regard to a canine, isn't it true that a canine, as it's used by law enforcement, is a working dog?
Yes,
Okay, so it's someone, or it's a dog that's on the job to assist law enforcement.
yes,
Now, back in 2014, when you would have been working with Makita, you were employed with the Shawano Police Department, is that right?
I was, but I was working independently.
Okay, so you could also be freelancing and assist other agencies with respect to your canine and Makita?
Yes,
Now, when you were talking a little earlier, so essentially what you're describing is this wasn't an actual police dog canine. This was a dog that you had.
correct.
I'm following, okay. So like when we just would have heard from another law enforcement officer about a police dog, this is a dog that you have had certified and trained. You just happen to be a police officer.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, when you're talking, just so the jury understands, when you're talking about these blind hides, as far as the certification, that is then something that's hidden for your dog to find to see if they're alerting properly. Is that right?
Yes,
And with regard to Makita, there's different ways that canines or dogs alert. Would you agree?
yes.
How did she alert?
Her alert was sitting as close to source or, I guess, as close as she can to the source of the odor.
Okay. And I should have asked, back in that training you're talking about in St. Louis, Missouri, was Makita successfully certified?
Yes,
All right. And the certification that a canine dog receives, and now you're indicating her certification was in what?
human remains detection.
Okay. That certification for human remains detection, is that something that then as you're working with a canine, you certify them or receive training annually?
That particular certification was every 2 years. Unfortunately, she has passed since my second research.
So, but every 2 years you'd receive that certification?
For that particular organization, yes.
Okay. Now, with regard to your role in this case, at some point in March of 2014, were you dispatched to assist the Brown County Sheriff's Department in a missing person case?
Yes,
And the dog that you are bringing here, Makita now, this is a dog for human remains detection?
yes.
Do you remember as a result, or strike that, do you remember who asked you to assist with regard to that search?
One of, I believe, I'm going to not say his name right, Detective Ehrenstein.
Okay. And so it was an officer with the Sheriff's Department?
Yes, I believe I was contacted through the Sheriff's Department and maybe also Green Bay PD.
Okay. And again, now, this is March 2014, right?
Yes,
At the time that you are asked to do this assist, do you proceed somewhere?
yes.
Where do you go?
To the McKeefrey Quarry.
Okay. And is that located in the village of Pulaski, Brown County, Wisconsin?
Yes,
And what are you being dispatched in reference to?
missing female.
Okay. And when you go out on these types of assists, is there an op plan or are there some details that are offered to you by law enforcement?
Typically, there are.
Okay. So on this date, you know you're looking for a missing female?
Correct.
And if you're being brought out with a human remains detection dog, are you briefed that it's believed she could be dead at that time?
Yes,
Okay, that's why you're brought out.
yes,
Now, at the time that you are providing this search assistance, and you're indicating you're proceeding to the McKeefrey Quarry, do you go there with anybody else besides Makita?
yes. There are several other officers from Green Bay Police Department, Sheriff's Department, and also another cadaver dog handler that I train with, Teresa Christ.
Okay. And who's Teresa employed with?
I'm not sure who she's employed with, but we are affiliated with Canine Search Solutions out of Madison, Wisconsin.
Okay. What is, so, and again, I'm taking you back to March 19th, 2014. You're saying Teresa Christ is there. What type of canine does she have?
I believe she had a German Shepherd.
Okay. And was she affiliated with the police department?
No, she's not.
Okay. So as you and Teresa Chris and both of your canines are coming out to this quarry search, this is not something that's official police business at that time. You're just assisting law enforcement.
Correct.
And I'm sorry, what kind of canine did Teresa have, if you know?
I believe she had a German Shepherd. She's been a cadaver dog handler for many, many years, and since I was fairly new with my certification, I had requested the assistance of her to help me.
And so the purpose of her specific dog was that human remains as well?
Yes.
Okay. Now, at the time that you arrived there, and was that, do you recall what time of day that was?
I believe we arrived sometime before noon.
Okay. And if you're arriving there around noon, at the time that you arrive, do you enter the sniff area in the quarry?
Yes.
What is that?
What is this?
What's a sniff area?
It's an area that we were requested to utilize our canines.
Okay. And with this quarry, do you recall what the makeup was, the size of the quarry, what you're looking at?
There was ice, so it was fairly large
Okay,
quarry.
okay. And do you remember, so was the quarry something that was filled with water?
Yes.
And as a result of you proceeding there with Makita to the quarry, what do you then do?
I give her a command to sniff for the odor of human remains. I believe we started that sniff on the north portion of the quarry and worked our way to the south, more on the eastern side of the quarry.
And so the jury understands, what do you mean you gave a command to sniff for the odor of human remains?
I give her a certain command that she knows what her job or her role is to do.
Okay. And that's something that you've done with her in the past?
Yes,
And that's what she's received certification in?
yes.
And on that date, as you give that command to Makita, what does Makita then do?
I took her off lead and she worked off lead throughout the ice on the quarry.
When you say off lead, does that mean off the leash?
Yes,
All right. So at that time then, did Makita enter the quarry on the ice?
yes.
And what do you do?
I watch her body language and behavior. There's several different types of, I guess, indicators that allow me to know when she is in odor. Her body language being number one, the way her head turns or the way her tail is cocked, her breathing, all different types of things that go into that.
Okay. And with respect to you now having her off leash, she is given this command. What does Makita then do?
At some point on the, I guess, middle to more southeastern portion of the quarry, she does give a train final alert
And what does that mean?
that she smelled the odor of human remains.
Now, you indicated in your report had said that you arrived at noon. Do you know approximately what time Makita gets this response?
I believe it was 12:15.
Okay. And this response, do you recall as you now go out to the quarry, if you're entering the area at noon, is this an immediate response, or does this take some time, or, do you know approximately what time Makita goes out onto the ice?
I would say approximately noon.
Okay. And are you watching her as she goes out on the ice then?
Yes, I'm behind her, watching her body behavior.
Okay. Although she did indicate on the human remains, then what happened?
I believe I praised her, and then I probably put her back up in the vehicle. Then Teresa came out with her dog.
Okay. So at that time, after a dog alerts, and again, you described to the jury what that would mean, did she sit down like you indicated she would do for an alert?
Yes.
And after you see that, what do?
Like I said, I'm thinking I probably praised her. She's not toy motivated, so she probably got a treat. And then from there,
And so is that what you do then if you receive, if they've done their job, which is to investigate this, then you give her some kind of reward?
yes, I like to, whether it's my patrol dog or my human remains dog, I like to, I guess, praise them and give them a treat for working, not always necessarily finding the source of the odor or whatever object you want them to find. I think it's just as important to praise and reward your dog for working.
And at some point also, you indicated that alert was something, well, do you recall where that alert occurred in the quarry? You thought she entered from the north side, is that right?
Yes, I believe the alert would have been more towards the middle or more southern portion, and then more towards the east, not too far off the eastern shoreline.
Do you remember if she then detected anything or not on the north and the west sides of the quarry?
She did not.
Okay, so it's basically that southeast side?
Yes.
When your dog then alerts, do you do anything to memorialize the location of that?
Yes, at that time, I had utilized an app on my phone.
And what are you recording?
Basically, her movements and where she went on that quarry, and then the alert.
And is there a specific point then that you would document?
Yes.
Okay. And do you do that down to the degrees?
Yes.
When you do this kind of work, do you typically prepare a report to memorialize what you found?
Yes.
And that report, is that something that would refresh your recollection to the degrees that you would have located on that date?
Yes.
Now, I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 81. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
And what is this?
My report.
Okay. And would reviewing this refresh your recollection on the exact degrees?
Yes.
Okay, and what did you note on your report as far as where the alert from Makita occurred?
I have written that the waypoint is as follows: 44.630341 degrees, and then negative 88.227249 degrees.
Now, with regard to Makita, at the time that she had conducted the search in 2014, how old was she?
She was approximately 6 or 7.
And
She
what-
was a rescue dog.
And what kind of dog was she?
She
What
was,
breed?
I'm sorry, an American Staffordshire Terrier.
And at the time that she did this training in 2014, how long had she been doing cadaver training?
I started training her in 2011.
And do you know at that time approximately how many hours of cadaver training she had?
At that time, roughly 260 hours.
And you had indicated she was nationally certified through NSDA?
Yes,
The information that you would have acquired on that date as a result of the search, would you have turned that over to law enforcement?
yes.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Yes. Ma'am, was this the first deployment of, you said Makita, correct? I'm just trying to make sure I'm saying the dog's name right. Makita for searching for a cadaver?
No,
So you did other searches after she was certified?
I'm sorry, for this particular case or other cases?
So let me just ask the question a little bit more clearly. So after Makita was certified, was this the first search you used her on after she was certified, or was there other searches prior to this case?
There were other searches.
And I think I heard you correctly. You said that she made an indication on the query. She sat down on the ice. But then I also thought I heard you say that you brought Teresa's dog out. So Teresa's dog also alerted to that same spot?
I don't want to say that same spot, but her dog alerted, yes.
Okay. And as far as you know, did those alerts turn into anything of evidentiary value?
I don't know.
Okay. And when you say it alerted to this, how long can the smell of human remains stay in an area?
I can't answer that. That's hard to tell.
Okay. And the dogs can smell human remains through the ice and the water?
The odor of the human remains would be coming up
Okay.
when the ice is porous.
Sure. And when you're doing your certification, were the remains put in that area more recently than, say, maybe I should say it this way. When you were doing your certification, you mentioned that there was a roadside sniff, a house sniff, and some other different ones. Were the human remains for those sniffs put out there more recently to do that certification? Like they put them out there right before you do the search, or are they out there for a while?
My understanding is they're out there a while. I know that the certifiers have certain rules that they need to follow with how much, how long, so.
And you were only deployed to the McKeefer Quarry, correct? Were you deployed anywhere else?
Not that I remember, no.
Okay, so you weren't deployed anywhere around the 5118 Coonish Road property?
No.
Okay. And you were solely called out for that specific day, correct?
Yes,
Did you assist on any other searches other than that one day?
just the McKeefer Quarry one.
And your understanding is that no other part of that search was done that day because of the ice. They couldn't go down and look underneath the water at that point, correct?
I left, I guess not too long after. I'm not sure what happened after we left.
Okay. So you don't know what the results were of Nikita making that alert to that location?
No, sir.
And was there anybody else searching that day besides you and Teresa?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay. Was it just a small group of officers who were there that day and then they called you out specifically for this particular search?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you. You're excused.
Thank you.
Jurors will take our 15-minute afternoon recess. Anything we need outside the presence of the jurors?
No, you're on.
All right, we're on a 15-minute recess.
Thank you.